one of the most popular topics that we find in the master classes we run around the world is, how do you deal with a board that is so used to micromanaging they don't even see they're micromanaging because they micromanage all the ideas that we're micromanaging? You know who we're talking about here. So what do you do with a board who's so intent on micromanaging they will not hear anything else other than, well, this is our responsibility as directors because our houses are on the line? Oh, the number of times you hear that. I mean, really? The only time your house is on the line is when you're being a crook. And then it should be on the line because, well, you're being a crook and, in fact, incredibly not smart either. So it does happen, but the number of times that I've heard this as an excuse for wanting to get into the details of exactly what's going on because, after all, we're responsible. No, I'm sorry. As a director, you are responsible for creating the future. Responsible for how your communities are actually created with the assistance and the guidance that you're able to provide where that's appropriate. That's what you're responsible for. So, what do we do to help our board get out of the micromanagement trap? Well, there's some great things that you can do. First of all is to recognize that micromanagement is something that can creep in at any time. My definition of micromanagement is a little weird, but then again, so is most of my points of view. Micromanagement is where you try and get into the operations where there is no strategic oversight of why you're getting into those operations. Now, as a director, I reserve the right to ask for any information that I require if I think something's not right, if something's smelly, if something's just going wrong, or I've heard things where you think, hang on a second, this could be really dangerous. I reserve that right, but I will always have a strategic viewpoint about why. Not about the detail, but I want to make sure that the processes are in place that are actually enabling us to create what it is that we said we'd be creating. So I reserve that right, but I will use it very judiciously. So, micromanagement is where there is a tendency to get into the operations without any strategic insight or strategic oversight about why you're doing it. That's a bit of a different definition. So how do we stop that from happening where people go in just because they can, because it's interesting, it's the next new bright shiny thing about exactly how we're doing this particular program? Well, one of them is the way we structure our agenda. So primarily your agenda should be structured around your strategic plan. I'll tell you now, if your agenda is structured around the reports from staff about what's happening in your operational projects or operational services, then by its very nature the board must be operational and will be encouraged to micromanage because, of course, more information is always better. Well, hang on a second, that's not true. What we need is the right information that we as directors need to actually be able to make the choices that we need to make that are actually going to create the future for our communities. That's what we should be focusing on. So, structure your agenda around your strategic plan, not item number 54, report on the strategic plan from the CEO and all the staff. No. What we want is, here are our 4 key strategies, here are the things that we'd agreed to do within the time frames, here are our success measures, how's it going, what's changed, what have we missed, what else do we need to change, is there anything else that we need to know? They're the sort of reports I want as a director. And then that's supported by the finance and the audit and the operational reports, but they should primarily be dashboards unless there's a strategic issue that it raises. So one of the great tools that you can use is when you're getting reports from your staff, have a little heading at the bottom of that report which says, strategic questions for the board to consider. When you're running your financial reports, one of the great things I always want to see at the bottom of my P&L and my balance sheet are strategic implications for discussion. Not why are we $100 more or less? Why are we $1,000? Why are we $10,000 more or less? Why are we $100 million more or less? We should already know that through our Finance Audit Risk Committee. I want to know, and so what? So let's have an and so what section, which is much better written as strategic implications for discussion. So there's just some simple tools that you can use to help start getting your board out of micromanagement. The last one I'll leave you with, which is personally my favourite, is when someone is delving into the detail of something and there's no strategic reason that they should be delving into that detail, then a very simple question you can ask them, it doesn't matter whether you're the chair or one of the directors, the very simple question is this: so what's the strategic issue behind this information that you're seeking? And then just see where that conversation takes you. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you.